Vince Gill never chased headlines, he let melodies do the talking. Yet, on a quiet Nashville morning, the 68-year-old finally confirmed a truth whispered for years. It wasn't a scandalous confession, but something deeper. A vow he made to himself the night his life first cracked open. By the end of this story, you'll understand why that promise still shapes every note he sings and why what he just revealed might change how you hear his music forever. But to grasp the weight of that vow, we need to travel back to a single ringing phone in 1968. 11-year-old Vince was strumming a 4-string tenor guitar when the telephone shattered the calm in Norman, Oklahoma. His half-brother Bob, the family prankster, had been in a wreck. 3 months of coma followed, and when Bob's eyes finally opened, the laughter was gone, his mind locked behind blank stares. For 25 years, the Gills lived with a son who breathed but never returned, and Vince carried that wordless grief into every stage he stepped on. He later said, "Every time I sing Go Rest High on That Mountain, I'm back in that hospital hallway." The vow he made to draw beauty out of pain or die trying was born in that hallway. Pain forged resolve, but resolve would be tested by a once-of-a-lifetime offer only a dreamer could refuse. RCA had just dropped 2 Gill albums with barely a chart ripple when Mark Knopfler called. Dire Straits wanted Vince on lead guitar arena tours, platinum paydays, global adoration. Most musicians would have answered before the phone finished ringing. Vince paused. Accepting meant surrendering his own stories to another band's spotlight. He hung up politely, then paced the house wondering if he'd torched his last escape from obscurity. Months later, he was back in anonymous clubs, squeezing pennies, questioning everything. But that silence birthed When I Call Your Name, the track that won his first Grammy and proved the vow unbroken. Success, however, never arrives alone. Sometimes it drags conflict through the door dressed as love. CBS taped Christmas with Vince Gill, pairing him with Amy Grant, the queen of Christian pop. Their first rehearsal ended with a gentle, joking command from Vince. "Unway knit that brow. It's gonna be okay." The tension melted. Harmony followed. Over the next 6 years, they shared stages, then headlines. Both their marriages were unraveling, and by 1999 tabloids screamed, "Affair!" Radio stations yanked Amy's songs. Church groups called for boycotts. Privately, Amy and Vince swore no vows were broken before papers were filed, but the stigma stuck like burrs. March 10, 2000, they married beneath bare Tennessee branches, choosing love over reputation. Even matrimony couldn't slow destiny. Another phone call would pull Vince onto an even bigger stage, one haunted by absence. Glenn Frey's death in 2016 left the Eagles grounded. Don Henley doubted they'd ever fly again. Manager Irving Azoff phoned Vince. Would he share lead duties with Glenn's son Deacon for 2 tribute shows? Vince asked only, "When do we leave?" Rehearsals were brutal 6-hour vocal drills to fit harmonies older than Spotify. On opening night at Dodger Stadium, 55,000 fans braced for disappointment. Instead, tears. Vince didn't imitate Frey. He honored him, letting each guitar bend echo gratitude. Critics still grumbled a country singer in a rock cathedral, but Henley silenced them. He knows how to be in a band. The cheers faded, but home held louder, battles one's applause could never fix. A 2020 cardiology checkup for Vince turned into a life-saving detour for Amy. Doctors found her rare congenital heart defect, PAP-VR, requiring immediate open-heart surgery. Pandemic rules barred visitors, so Vince waited alone in a parking lot, praying. When clearance finally came, he entered her room to a post-anesthesia smile he'd later describe as peace on earth. Recovery was slow. He cooked, cleaned, coaxed laughter. 2 years later, a bicycle crash left Amy unconscious with a traumatic brain injury. Vince canceled 3 concerts without hesitation. No stage matters more than seeing her stand again. While tabloids whispered that these crises might force retirement, Vince answered with a surprising announcement. In early 2025, fan forums buzzed that Gill would step away from touring to protect what's left of his voice. He addressed it head-on, admitting he'd considered easing off the road to cherish faith and family, then turned around and unveiled a 30-city summer run celebrating 50 years on stage, capped by 4 Ryman nights. No opener by design. He wants every minute with his audience. If you've come this far, you deserve the whole story. Those new shows revealed fresh songs, ones not built for radio rotation but for midnight honesty. Gill's recent writing sessions happen in a spare bedroom lined with dog-eared hymnals. Forever Changed tackled childhood abuse survivors' anguish. When My Amy Praise won a Grammy yet doubles as a whispered thank you. He co-writes with 20-somethings, welcomes their TikTok slang, then slips in chord voicings older than they are. These tunes won't top the Hot 100. He shrugs. But they might keep someone from giving up at 3 a.m. That mission, louder than applause, keeps him recording even as peers downshift into golf carts. Which brings us back to the confession that started it all. What did Vince finally confirm? Not a tawdry rumor, those fade. He confessed that every career decision, from turning down Dire Straits to stepping in for Glenn Frey, flowed from the promise he made outside Bob's hospital room. Never trade truth for convenience. At 68, he admits the vow cost him chart positions, cushy opening slots, and sometimes sleep, but it also gave the world songs that feel like prayer set to steel strings. Half a century in, Vince Gill proves legacy isn't carved by volume but by sincerity. His story begs one simple question. Which Vince Gill song still follows you around? Drop it below, share this video with anyone who believes music can mend broken places, and hit subscribe because next time we'll uncover the hidden chapter of another icon whose quiet courage rewrote country history.